The mafia boss was bleeding out in his burning mansion, betrayed by everyone he trusted. She walked through the smoke, just a maid sent to clean an abandoned estate. What she didn't know, saving the most dangerous man in Chicago would cost her everything. What he didn't know, she came there to destroy him. The mansion was burning. Dante Moretti crashed through the back door, his shoulder slamming against the frame as bullets tore through the wood behind him. Blood soaked through his white dress shirt, a shirt that cost more than most people made in a month. Now it was just red. All red. His phone wouldn't stop buzzing in his pocket. Text after text from numbers he didn't recognize. They got Marco. Tommy's dead. The feds have everything. He stumbled through the marble hallway, the same hallway where his father used to walk every morning with a cup of espresso and the newspaper. The old man would have never let this happen. But the old man was 6 feet under, and Dante had been running Chicago's North Side for 5 years without him. 5 years of power. 5 years of respect. Gone in one night. The smoke was getting thicker. Dante could barely see 5 feet ahead, but he knew this house like the back of his hand. He'd grown up here. Had his first kiss in the garden. Broke his arm falling down the main staircase when he was 9. Now someone was burning it all down. Boss. The voice came from somewhere in the smoke. Dante spun, reaching for his gun, but his holster was empty. He'd fired his last bullet 3 blocks ago when Ricci's men cornered him outside the warehouse. Ricci. The name tasted like poison. His own cousin. His blood. The man he'd trusted to run operations while Dante handled the politicians and the cops. And tonight, Ricci had sold him out to the FBI and every rival family in the city. Boss, you in here? That wasn't Ricci's voice. Too young. Dante squinted through the smoke and saw a figure moving toward him, but something was off. The build was wrong. Too small. A woman stepped into view. She was wearing a simple gray dress with an apron, her dark hair pulled back in a bun. In her hands, she carried a metal bucket sloshing with water. She couldn't have been more than 25. Who the hell are you? Dante's voice came out as a rasp. Sir, you need to get out. The whole East Wing is on fire. She didn't sound panicked. She sounded annoyed, like she'd interrupted her shift at a diner to deal with an unruly customer. I asked you a question. Dante tried to stand straighter, but his vision swam. The bullet in his side was doing more damage than he'd thought. Lena Caruso. I'm from St. Catherine's. The church sent me to clean the property. She set the bucket down and looked him over with sharp brown eyes. You're bleeding pretty bad. St. Catherine's? Dante laughed, and it hurt. Lady, this house hasn't been on any cleaning schedule for 20 years. Well, Father Rodriguez said the estate manager called last week. Said the place needed to be prepared for new tenants. She frowned. You're not supposed to be here. Sirens wailed in the distance. Multiple sirens. Police, fire department, probably half the city by now. Dante's enemies would have made sure of that, made sure everyone knew where to find him. He looked at the woman again. Her hands were rough, calloused. Real working hands. And there was something in her eyes that didn't match her story. Something sharp and calculating. You need to leave, he said. Not without you. She grabbed his arm. Surprisingly strong for someone her size. Come on. I said leave. Dante shoved her back, harder than he meant to. She stumbled but didn't fall. Instead, she pointed at the grand staircase behind him. Flames were crawling up the banister now, eating through wood that was older than both of them combined. You can die here with your pride, she said quietly, or you can let me help you. Your choice. The ceiling groaned. Somewhere above them, something heavy crashed to the floor. Dante looked at his father's portrait hanging on the wall, the last thing in this house that mattered. Giovanni Moretti stared back at him with those hard, disappointed eyes. The same look he'd given Dante the day before the cancer took him. Don't let them see you weak, boy. The moment they see weakness, you're already dead. But Dante was already dead. His empire, his men, his reputation, all of it was ashes, just like this house. He took a step toward the staircase, toward the portrait. toward the flames. Lena Caruso moved faster than he expected. She hooked her arm around his waist and pulled him back with surprising force. Not today, Mr. Moretti. He jerked his head toward her. How do you know my name? She didn't answer. Instead, she grabbed the bucket and threw the water on the nearest flames, creating just enough of a gap in the fire.
Move. Now.
The sirens were getting closer. Red and blue lights flashed through the smoke, painting everything in colors of judgment and consequence. Dante Moretti, the king of Chicago's underworld, let a maid lead him out of his burning castle. They emerged into the cool October air, and Dante immediately doubled over, coughing. His side screamed with pain. The bullet was still in there, grinding against something important. Sit. Lena pushed him down onto the stone steps of the back patio. Don't move. She disappeared around the side of the house. Dante could hear the fire trucks pulling up to the front gates, voices shouting, radios crackling. They'd find him in minutes. The FBI would have questions. So would Ricci's people, if they didn't just finish the job first. Lena returned with a first aid kit, the kind you'd find in any suburban home. Lift your shirt. What are you, a nurse? I'm a maid with 3 younger brothers. Same thing, she didn't wait for permission. She tore his shirt open, buttons scattering across the stone, and pressed a wad of gauze against the bullet wound. Dante hissed through his teeth. Bullet's still in there, she said, matter of fact. You need a hospital. Can't go to a hospital. Then you'll die. Maybe that's the point. Lena tied the gauze tight enough to make him wince, then sat back on her heels and looked at him. Really looked at him. You know what I think, Mr. Moretti? I don't care what you think. I think you're not ready to die yet. She stood up, wiping her bloody hands on her apron like it was just another Tuesday. Otherwise you wouldn't have let me pull you out of there. Before Dante could respond, she pulled out a cell phone, not a smartphone, just an old flip phone, and made a call. Father Rodriguez? It's Lena. I'm going to need to stay at the property tonight. There's been complications. A pause.
No, I'm fine.
I'll explain tomorrow. Pray for me. She hung up and looked down at Dante, who was now slumped against the railing, his energy draining away with his blood. What are you doing? He managed to ask. Lena Caruso picked up her bucket and headed toward the ruined mansion. My job, Mr. Moretti. I clean up messes. Then she disappeared into the smoke, leaving Dante Moretti alone with his ghosts and the sound of sirens getting closer with every passing second. Dante woke to the smell of coffee. For a moment, he thought he was dead. Heaven wouldn't smell like burnt wood and copper, but maybe hell served espresso. Then the pain hit, a white-hot spike in his side that made him gasp. Don't move, Lena's voice came from somewhere to his left. You'll tear the stitches. Dante's eyes snapped open. He was lying on a couch in what used to be the library. The morning sun filtered through windows covered in soot, casting strange shadows across rows of burned books. Someone had draped a blanket over him. Stitches? His throat felt like sandpaper. Lena appeared above him, holding a steaming mug. Drink this first. He tried to sit up and immediately regretted it. The room spun. I said don't move. She set the coffee down and adjusted the pillow behind his head. Her hands were gentle but efficient. You passed out around midnight. I pulled the bullet out myself. You what? Boiled water, tweezers, vodka from your bar. I've done it before, she said it so casually, like she was describing how to hem a dress. My oldest brother got shot during a robbery 3 years ago. Couldn't go to the hospital either. Dante stared at her. In the morning light, he could see her more clearly. She was younger than he'd thought, maybe 23, 24. Pretty in an understated way, with high cheekbones and eyes that seemed to notice everything. Her gray dress was clean now, though he could see bloodstains on the apron she'd removed and folded neatly on a nearby chair. The police came last night, she continued, picking up a broom. Fire department too. I told them the property was empty when I arrived. They searched the east wing, but didn't bother with this side. Too much structural damage. Why? Dante's voice was barely a whisper. Why what? Why are you helping me? You know who I am. Lena started sweeping glass from the floor, the bristles scraping against marble. I know what people say you are. It's all true. Maybe she didn't look at him. But I was sent here to clean this estate, and that's what I'm going to do. You just happen to be part of the mess. Dante watched her work. She moved through the ruined library like she'd been doing this her whole life, sweeping debris into neat piles, wiping soot from surfaces, organizing the chaos. There was something almost meditative about it. You should leave, he said, when Ricci finds out I'm alive. Who's Ricci? My cousin. The man who did this. Dante touched his side gingerly. He won't stop until I'm dead. Then he'll have to go through me. Lena said it without drama, without bravado. Just a simple statement of fact. Despite everything, Dante almost smiled. You're insane. I'm thorough. She emptied her dustpan into a trash bag. There's soup on the stove. You should eat something. She walked out, leaving Dante alone with his thoughts. He tried to piece together the previous night. Ricci's betrayal. The ambush at the warehouse. Marco and Tommy dead. The FBI had files, Ricci had said. Bank accounts, shipping manifests, recordings of phone calls. Everything Dante had built over 5 years, handed over in exchange for immunity and a cut of the territory.
Family.
He'd trusted family. Dante forced himself to sit up, gritting his teeth against the pain. The library looked like a war zone. Thousands of books reduced to ash and charred paper. His grandfather had collected first editions, Hemingway, Fitzgerald, Steinbeck. All gone. He noticed something on the side table. His father's portrait, the one that had hung in the hallway. The frame was cracked and the canvas was singed at the edges, but Giovanni Moretti's face was intact. Those judgmental eyes still staring. Lena must have pulled it from the fire. Dante heard footsteps and quickly lay back down, pretending to sleep.
He didn't know why.
Maybe he just wanted to observe her when she thought he wasn't watching. She returned with a bowl of soup, chicken and vegetables, the smell making his stomach growl. She set it down and checked his bandages with practiced hands. I know you're awake, she said softly. Dante opened his eyes. You saved the portrait. It seemed important.
Why?
Lena sat down in the armchair across from him, folding her hands in her lap. My father died when I was 16.
Car accident.
For months after, I couldn't look at his pictures. Couldn't stand seeing his face. Knowing he was gone, she paused. But my mother kept one photo on the mantel. Every day, she'd dust it, talk to it, apologize to it. I asked her once why she tortured herself like that. What did she say? She said remembering the pain means remembering the love. You don't get one without the other. Dante looked at his father's portrait again. Giovanni Moretti had been a hard man, demanding and cold. But he'd also taught Dante everything. How to read people, how to command respect, how to survive in a world that wanted to eat you alive. How to be a king. And Dante had failed him. Eat your soup, Mr. Moretti. Lena stood up. I have floors to scrub. She picked up her bucket and walked toward the hallway, where bloodstains still marked the marble like a trail of breadcrumbs. Dante watched her go, questions multiplying in his mind. Who was Lena Caruso really? Why had St. Catherine sent someone to clean an abandoned estate that nobody knew was abandoned? How did she know how to remove bullets? And why, despite all his instincts screaming at him, did he feel safer with her here than he had in years surrounded by armed men? He looked down at the soup. Steam rose from the bowl, carrying the scent of home and comfort and things he'd forgotten existed. Dante Moretti, former king of Chicago, picked up the spoon and ate. The afternoon sun was dying when Dante finally had the strength to stand. He found Lena in the kitchen, scrubbing the countertops with the kind of intensity that suggested she was trying to erase more than just dirt. She didn't turn around when he entered, but her shoulders tensed. You should be resting, she said. I've rested enough. Dante leaned against the doorframe, conserving energy. The kitchen looked almost normal. She cleaned the blood from the tile, organized the chaos, even found undamaged dishes in the cabinets. Where'd you learn to clean crime scenes? I told you. 3 brothers. We got good at making problems disappear. Dante watched her work for a moment, then noticed the metal trash can in the corner. Smoke was rising from it. He crossed the kitchen in 3 steps and looked inside. Papers were burning, documents, photographs, letters. He recognized his own handwriting on some of them. What the hell are you doing? He reached into the can, pulling out a half-burned photograph. It showed him and Ricci at his father's funeral, arms around each other's shoulders. Brothers in everything but blood. These were in the study, Lena said calmly. They're evidence. If the FBI comes back. I didn't ask you to do that. Dante threw the photo back into the flames. You didn't ask me to save your life either. He grabbed her arm, spinning her around. You don't know what you're destroying. Lena met his eyes, without flinching. I know exactly what I'm destroying, Mr. Moretti. The question is, do you want to let it go or keep burning with it? They stood like that for a long moment, the fire crackling between them. Finally, Dante released her and stepped back. There's more in the study, he said quietly. In the safe behind the bookshelf. Burn it all. Lena nodded and turned back to her work. Dante returned to the trash can and pulled out another document, a shipping manifest from 2 years ago. The night everything changed. The night that made him more than just his father's son. He stared at it, memories flooding back. Ricci, he muttered, almost to himself. Lena's hand stilled. What about him? He was there that night. Said we'd split everything 50-50. Said we were family. Dante crumpled the paper in his fist. Guess blood doesn't mean much when there's money on the table. It never does. There was something in her voice, a bitterness that didn't match her age. Dante looked at her more carefully. You talk like someone who knows. Everyone knows, Mr. Moretti. That's not special wisdom. She dumped more papers into the fire. Your cousin betrayed you. Welcome to being human. He didn't just betray me. He killed 12 of my men.
Good men.
Men with families. Dante's voice dropped. Marco had a daughter. 6 years old. Tommy was getting married next month. Lena's jaw tightened, but she said nothing. Ricci knew about the wedding, Dante continued. He was supposed to be Tommy's best man. Instead, he set him up. Fed him to the FBI like a dog. Then why are you still here? Lena turned to face him. Why aren't you out there hunting him down? Because I'm half dead and hunted by every cop and criminal in Chicago. Or because you know you deserve this. The words hit like a slap. Dante's hands clenched into fists. Careful, he said softly. You don't know me well enough to make judgments. I know enough. Lena picked up her bucket and headed for the door. I know you're burning your past because you can't face it. I know you're hiding in this mansion because you're too afraid to fight back. And I know. She stopped mid-sentence, her eyes catching on something behind him. Dante turned. On the kitchen table sat Lena's canvas bag, the one she'd brought with her the first night. It had fallen open, and contents had spilled across the surface. A notebook.
A camera.
And something that made Dante's blood run cold. A press badge. Lena Caruso, Chicago Tribune, investigative reporter. Dante's hand went instinctively to his waistband, forgetting his gun was long gone. He looked at Lena, who had gone very still. You're a reporter, he said flatly. I can explain. You're a goddamn reporter, his voice rose. St. Catherine's? The church? All of it was a lie. Lena set down her bucket slowly, her eyes never leaving his. Not all of it. Father Rodriguez is real. He does know I clean estates. But you're not here to clean. No. She lifted her chin. I'm here to write the truth about what happened to the Moretti Empire. About you. Dante laughed, a harsh, broken sound. The truth? You want the truth? I'm a criminal. A killer. I've hurt more people than I can count. There's your story. Now get out. I'm not leaving. Yes, you are. He grabbed her bag and shoved it into her arms. You got your story. Boss betrayed. Empire falls. Probably dead by next week.
Print it.
I don't care anymore. Lena clutched the bag, but didn't move toward the door. You're right. I came here for a story. I've been tracking your family for 6 months, waiting for an opening. When I heard about the fire, I knew it was my chance. Then why save me? Why not let me die and write your masterpiece? She was quiet for a long moment. When she finally spoke, her voice was barely a whisper. Because you're not what I expected. What's that supposed to mean? Lena looked at the burning trash can, then back at him. It means you're not a monster, Mr. Moretti. You're just broken. She walked past him and out of the kitchen, leaving Dante alone with his ghosts and the ashes of his past. He stood there until the fire burned down to embers, watching his history turn to smoke. Then he noticed something she'd left behind, her notebook, fallen beneath the table. Dante picked it up and opened to the first page. The Fall of the Moretti Empire, an Investigation, by Lena Caruso. His hands trembled as he turned the pages. Notes, timelines, photographs. She'd been following him for months. Knew about the warehouse, about Ricci, about things even his own men hadn't known. But on the last page, written in fresh ink, was something different. Day 1. Found Dante Moretti alive. He's guilty of everything they say. Day 2. He placed flowers at the warehouse. Whispered names.
Cried. He's guilty.
But he's not heartless. What am I supposed to do with that? Dante closed the notebook and looked toward the hallway where Lena had disappeared. For the first time in 2 days, he didn't know what scared him more, the enemies hunting him or the woman with a camera who saw through him. Lena left before dawn. Dante watched from the library window as she walked down the long driveway, her canvas bag slung over her shoulder. She didn't look back. Good, he thought. Better this way. He spent the morning going through the safe, burning everything that could connect him to his old life. Bank statements, contracts, photographs of meetings with people who were now either dead or trying to kill him. The flames ate it all. By noon, his side was screaming. The wound had started bleeding again. He'd been moving too much, pushing too hard. He needed proper medical attention, but hospitals meant questions. Questions meant police. Police meant a cell. Or worse, they meant Ricci finding out he was still breathing. Dante was rewrapping his bandages when he heard the front door open. He grabbed a fire poker, the closest thing to a weapon, and moved silently toward the foyer. Through the smoke-stained mirror, he could see a figure entering. Lena. She carried 2 grocery bags and was muttering to herself. Idiot. Complete idiot. Should have just written the story and walked away. Dante stepped out of the shadows. Thought you left. Lena jumped, nearly dropping the bags.
Jesus.
You trying to give me a heart attack? You came back. Clearly, she pushed past him into the kitchen. And, before you start, I'm not here for your company. You need antibiotics, or that wound's going to get infected. Also, you look like you haven't eaten real food in a year. She started unpacking bread, eggs, milk, first aid supplies, and a bottle of prescription pills. Dante picked up the pill bottle. How'd you get these? My brother's a pharmacy tech. Owed me a favor. She cracked eggs into a pan. Take 2 now, 2 every 6 hours. And yes, they're the right ones. I'm not trying to poison you. Why not? Make your story easier. Lena turned to face him, spatula in hand. You know what? I don't know. I spent all morning at the Tribune office with my editor, Mark Breslin. He's been waiting for this story for 6 months. The Fall of Dante Moretti. It's front-page material. Career-making stuff. So, why are you here instead of writing it? Because I told him I needed more time. More research. She turned back to the stove. I lied to my editor. Do you know how serious that is in journalism? That's career suicide. Dante leaned against the counter, studying her. What do you really want from me, Lena? The truth. Not the legend, not the myth. The actual truth about who you are and what happened. She slid scrambled eggs onto a plate and handed it to him.
Sit. Eat.
Then we talk. They ate in silence. Dante couldn't remember the last time he'd had a home-cooked meal. Everything in his old life had been takeout or expensive restaurants where the food looked like art but tasted like cardboard. I went to the warehouse this morning, Lena said finally. The one that burned, where your men died. Dante's fork stopped halfway to his mouth. There were flowers there. Fresh ones. You'd been there recently, hadn't you? Before the ambush. He set down his fork. So, I talked to some people in the neighborhood. Old woman named Mrs. Chen. She owns the corner store across the street. Lena pulled out her notebook. She said you've been coming there every week for 2 months. Always at night. Always alone. You'd stand there for an hour, just standing. Spying on me? That's low even for a reporter. It's called investigating. And Mrs. Chen said something else. Lena leaned forward. She said her grandson works at the hospital. Told her that someone's been paying the medical bills for Marco Vitelli's daughter. Anonymous donor. $60,000 and counting. Dante's jaw tightened. Lots of people make anonymous donations. Not to the specific cancer treatment fund for a 6-year-old girl whose father was killed in a mob war. Lena's eyes were intense. That was you, wasn't it? It doesn't change anything. It changes everything. Lena stood up, frustrated. Don't you see? The Dante Moretti everyone writes about is a monster. Cold, calculating, ruthless. But the man I've been watching, the man sitting in front of me, you're not that person. You don't know what I've done. Then tell me. Dante pushed his plate away. You want a story?
Fine.
5 years ago, I took over my father's operations. He ran them old school, protection rackets, gambling, some light smuggling.
Small time.
But I wanted more. I wanted to build an empire. He stood and walked to the window, looking out at the burned gardens. I expanded into drugs, weapons, human trafficking. Things my father never would have touched. Made deals with people from New York, Miami, even Mexico. The money rolled in, and with it came the violence. Rival families pushed back. We pushed harder. The warehouse fire, Lena said quietly, was a setup. Ricci told me we had a meeting with the Castellano family. Peace talks. Instead, it was an ambush. 12 of my men walked in thinking we were negotiating territory. They walked into a massacre. But you weren't there. Ricci called me at the last minute. Said there was a problem with a shipment, needed me to handle it personally. By the time I realized what happened, they were all dead. Dante's reflection stared back at him from the dirty window. I should have been there. Should have died with them. Instead, you've been visiting their graves. Wouldn't you? He turned to face her. Those men trusted me, believed in me, and I led them to slaughter because I was too blind to see my own cousin setting me up. Lena was quiet for a moment, then she did something unexpected. She walked over to him and placed her hand on his arm. It wasn't your fault. It was all my fault. Ricci's betrayal wasn't your fault. What happened to those men wasn't your fault. Her voice was firm. You made bad choices, yes. You built something dark, absolutely. But their deaths? That's on Ricci, not you. Dante looked down at her hand on his arm. Such a simple gesture, but it had been so long since anyone had touched him with something other than violence or transaction. Why do you care? He asked. Lena pulled her hand back, suddenly aware of the intimacy. I don't. I need the story to be accurate. She was lying. They both knew it. Before Dante could respond, his burner phone, one he'd grabbed from a stash in the basement, buzzed on the counter. Unknown number. He answered it, and a familiar voice made his blood run cold. Hello, cousin. Heard you survived the fire. That's disappointing. Ricci. We need to talk, Dante said. Oh, we will. Very soon. I just wanted to let you know I know about your little reporter friend. Lena Caruso, right? Pretty girl. Be a shame if something happened to her. The line went dead. Dante looked at Lena, who had gone pale. Pack your things, he said. You need to leave.
Now.
I'm not going anywhere. Ricci knows about you. He'll come after you to get to me. Lena set her jaw stubbornly. Then I guess we'd better figure out how to stop him before he does. The rain started that afternoon and didn't stop. Lena insisted on staying, no matter how many times Dante told her to leave. She'd moved her things into one of the upstairs bedrooms, one of the few rooms the fire hadn't touched, and went back to cleaning as if Ricci's threat meant nothing. Dante couldn't understand her, couldn't figure out if she was brave or just stupid. By evening, the rain had turned into a storm. Thunder rolled across the sky, and the old mansion groaned under the weight of wind and water. Dante found Lena in the courtyard, trying to fix the broken garden gate that had collapsed during the fire. "What are you doing?" he called over the rain. "What does it look like?" She wrestled with a rusted hinge. "This gate's been hanging by a thread. Next strong wind, it'll break completely. Leave it. The whole place is falling apart anyway." "Not if I can help it." She wiped rain from her face, her hair plastered to her cheeks. "Hand me that screwdriver." Dante looked at the toolbox she'd found somewhere in the garage. Against his better judgment, he picked up the screwdriver and walked into the rain. "You're insane," he muttered, kneeling beside her. "So you keep saying." They worked in silence for a while, the rain soaking through their clothes. Dante held the gate steady while Lena tightened the screws. His side throbbed with every movement, but he didn't complain. "Why do you care about this place?" he asked finally. "It's not even yours." "Because everything deserves a chance to be fixed." She hammered a bent nail back into place. "Even broken things. Some things are too broken." "Maybe. But you don't know until you try." The gate swung open smoothly for the first time in years. Lena tested it twice, nodded with satisfaction, then sat back on her heels. "My father built a gate like this," she said quietly, "for our backyard. Took him 3 weekends because he had no idea what he was doing. It was crooked and squeaky, but he was so proud of it." "You miss him." Every day she looked at Dante. "Is that what this is? You hiding here, burning your past. Is it because you miss your father?" Dante was quiet for a long moment. "I miss who I was when he was alive. He kept me in line, kept me from becoming this." "What changed?" "He got sick. Cancer. Took him in 6 months." Dante stared at the fixed gate. "Before he died, he told me to walk away. Sell everything, take the money, and start over somewhere clean. He said our family business was a curse, not a legacy. But you didn't listen." "I was 25 and angry. Thought I knew better. Thought I could do what he did, but bigger, better, smarter." He laughed bitterly. "Turns out I was just better at making enemies." Thunder cracked overhead. Lena stood and offered him her hand. He took it, letting her help him up. "You ran Chicago like a god," she said. "That's what people say about you. Dante Moretti, untouchable. And look where it got me." He gestured at the ruined mansion. "Everything I built, gone in one night. All that power, all that respect. It meant nothing when the people I trusted decided I wasn't worth keeping alive." They walked back toward the house, the rain finally starting to ease. Lena grabbed towels from the bathroom, and they dried off in the kitchen. "Can I ask you something?" Dante said. "Depends what it is." "That first night, when you pulled me out of the fire, you weren't scared. Not even a little. Most people would have run." Lena was quiet, wrapping the towel around her shoulders. "I told you. I have brothers. I'm used to danger." "It's more than that." He stepped closer. "You move like someone who's seen violence before. Real violence. The kind that doesn't go away." Her hands tightened on the towel. "Everyone in Chicago has seen violence, Mr. Moretti. That's not special." "Stop deflecting. Who are you really?" "I'm exactly who I said I am. A reporter trying to..." "Trying to what? Get revenge? Make a name for yourself?" He searched her face. "Or is there something else? Something personal?" Lena's expression cracked, just for a second. Pain flashed across her features before she could hide it. "You lost someone," Dante said softly. "Someone close to you. That's why you're really here, isn't it?" She turned away, staring out the window at the rain. "My brother."
Danny.
He was 23. Worked at a grocery store. Went to community college at night. He wanted to be a teacher. What happened to him? Wrong place, wrong time. 3 years ago, there was a shootout in front of his store. Gang war over territory, her voice was hollow. Danny was closing up. Walked outside, right when the shooting started. Caught a stray bullet in the chest. Dante's stomach dropped.
I'm sorry.
The police said it was the Castellano family. But witnesses said there was another crew there too. Moretti soldiers. She finally looked at him, and her eyes were wet. Your men, Dante. You were at war with the Castellanos, and my brother was collateral damage. He felt like he'd been punched. Lena. I came here to destroy you, she said, her voice breaking. I've spent 3 years building my career, getting close to your world, waiting for the moment when I could expose you for everything you are. I wanted to watch you fall. Then why save me? I don't know. She slammed her hand on the counter. I don't know anymore. I came here with so much hate, so much anger. I had it all planned out. Document your crimes, write the story, make sure you rotted in prison for the rest of your life. You still can. But you're not what I expected. Tears spilled down her cheeks. You were supposed to be a monster.
Cold, heartless, evil.
Instead, you're just broken. Like me. Dante wanted to reach for her, but didn't know how. Your brother's death. If my men were involved, then I'm responsible. I won't insult you by saying otherwise. I know. You should hate me. I do, she wiped her eyes roughly. Or I did. Or I'm supposed to. I don't know anymore. The kitchen fell silent except for the drumming of rain on the roof. Danny wanted to help people, Lena said finally. That's all he ever wanted. And he died because people like you decided territory was worth more than human lives. You're right. So, why am I standing here? Why didn't I let you burn? Why do I keep, she trailed off, shaking her head. Keep what? Keep seeing you as human. Dante had no answer for that. They stood in the kitchen, two broken people bound together by violence and guilt, and something neither of them could name. Outside, the rain continued to fall, washing the ash from the courtyard stones. But some stains, Dante knew, never came clean. Dante couldn't sleep. The nightmares came every time he closed his eyes. He'd see the warehouse, flames climbing the walls, his men's screams echoing off concrete. Marco reaching for him, Tommy's wedding ring melting in the heat. And behind it all, Ricci's smile. At 2 a.m, Dante gave up trying. He pulled on a shirt, wincing as the fabric brushed against his bandages, and headed downstairs for water. The mansion was dark and quiet. Too quiet. The kind of silence that made you hear ghosts. He filled a glass from the kitchen sink and was about to head back when he noticed light coming from under the door of Lena's room. She was still awake too. Dante started toward the stairs, then stopped. Something fell off. He walked down the hallway and knocked softly. Lena? No answer. Lena, you okay? Still nothing. The door was slightly ajar. Dante pushed it open and found the room empty. The light came from a small lamp on the desk, illuminating scattered papers and an open laptop. He should have left. Should have respected her privacy. But something caught his eye, her canvas bag, lying open on the floor. Contents spilled across the carpet like evidence at a crime scene. Dante knelt down, his side protesting. Notebooks, pens, a water bottle. And then he saw it, partially hidden under a sweater. A press badge. But not the Tribune one he'd seen before. This one was older, laminated and worn. The photo showed a younger Lena, maybe 19 or 20. But it was the name that made his blood run cold. Lena Caruso, Chicago Daily News intern. The Daily News had shut down 4 years ago, right after. Dante's hands started shaking. He dug through the bag more frantically now, pulling out a manila folder he'd missed before. Inside were newspaper clippings, police reports, photographs. All about Danny Caruso's death. But there was something else. Another set of documents, these ones marked with highlighter and handwritten notes in the margins. Moretti Family Operations, 2019 to 2022. known associates, territory disputes. And then, paperclip to the top, a photograph that made Dante's heart stop. It was him and Ricci standing outside the Castellano family's restaurant. The night of the shooting. The night Danny Caruso died. Lena's handwriting was scrawled across the bottom. Both families there. Both responsible. Dante sat back on his heels, the folder trembling in his hands. She'd known from the beginning. Known exactly who he was, what he'd done. Everything she'd said, about being sent by the church, about stumbling onto the mansion by accident, all lies. She'd come here to destroy him. And he'd let her in. Footsteps on the stairs made him look up. Lena appeared in the doorway, carrying a glass of water. She froze when she saw him sitting on her floor, surrounded by her secrets. Dante. Don't, his voice was quiet, dangerous. Don't say anything. I can explain. You've been lying to me from the start. He stood slowly, the folder in his hand. St. Catherine's. The church. Father Rodriguez sending you here. All of it was a setup. Lena set down the water glass carefully. Not all of it was a lie. Which parts? The part where you pretended to care? The part where you acted like you were trying to help me? He threw the folder at her feet. You came here for revenge. Yes, she didn't deny it. I came here to expose you. To make sure you paid for what you did. Then why am I still alive? Dante moved toward her. You had a dozen chances to turn me in. The police were right outside that first night. You could have called them. Could have let me die in the fire. Instead, you pulled a bullet out of me and cooked me breakfast. Because she stopped, struggling with the words. Because what, Lena? Because you're not what I thought. Her voice cracked. For 3 years, I've been building this image in my head. The monster who killed my brother. The heartless criminal who didn't care who got hurt as long as he got what he wanted. That's exactly who I am. No, it's not. Tears welled in her eyes. The man I imagined wouldn't visit his dead soldiers' graves. Wouldn't pay for a child's cancer treatment. Wouldn't burn his own past because the guilt was eating him alive. You don't know me. I know enough. She stepped toward him. I know you're guilty of terrible things. I know my brother died because of your war with the Castellanos. I know you've hurt people, destroyed lives, built an empire on blood and fear. Then why are you still here? Because. She was crying now, openly. Because revenge is supposed to feel good. It's supposed to fix things. But standing here, seeing you broken and hunted and hating yourself more than I could ever hate you, it doesn't fix anything. It doesn't bring Danny back. Dante felt something crack inside his chest. You should have let me die. I tried to. Her voice dropped to a whisper. That first night when I found you, I stood there for almost a minute just watching you bleed. Thinking about Danny, about my mother crying at his funeral, about all the lives you've ruined. What stopped you? You called out a name. In your sleep, barely conscious, you kept saying Marco, over and over.
I'm sorry, Marco.
I'm sorry, she wiped her eyes. Monsters don't apologize to their victims. They stood there in the doorway, the truth finally between them like shattered glass. I can't forgive you, Lena said. I don't know if I ever can. But I can't let you die either. Does that make me weak? It makes you human. She laughed bitterly. What do we do now? Dante looked at the scattered papers on the floor. All the evidence she'd collected. All the proof of his crimes. You write your story, he said. You expose everything. You make sure people know what I did. And what will you do? Before he could answer, the burner phone in his pocket buzzed. Another unknown number. Dante answered, and a voice he didn't recognize said, Mr. Moretti, this is Officer Chen. Your cousin wanted me to deliver a message. What message? The reporter dies tomorrow. Ricci says to consider it a gift. He'll make it quick if you turn yourself in.
If you don't, the man paused.
He has people watching her mother's house right now. He wanted you to know. The line went dead. Dante looked at Lena, his decision made. Pack your things, he said. We're leaving.
What?
No, I told you. Ricci knows where your mother lives. He's watching her. Dante grabbed his jacket. If we stay here, he'll use her to get to you. To get to me. Then what do we do? Dante pulled out a set of car keys he'd found in the garage, his father's old Lincoln, somehow still there after all these years. We stop running, he said. And we end this. The church was empty at 4 a.m. Dante waited in the Lincoln while Lena slipped through the side entrance of St. Catherine's. She'd insisted on coming here first, said she needed to see Father Rodriguez before they did anything else. He watched her disappear into the darkness, his hand resting on the gun he'd retrieved from a hiding spot in the mansion's basement. It was loaded with 3 bullets, all he had left from his old life. 3 bullets against an entire organization. The math didn't work in his favor. 15 minutes passed. Then 20. Dante was about to go in after her when the church door opened and Lena emerged, walking slowly, her shoulders hunched. She got into the passenger seat without speaking. Well? Dante asked. He wasn't surprised. Her voice was hollow. Father Rodriguez. When I told him everything about you, about my lies, about Danny, he just nodded like he'd been expecting it. What did he say? He asked me if I'd found what I was looking for. She stared straight ahead. I told him I didn't know what I was looking for anymore. And he said, she paused, wiping her eyes. He said, perhaps God sent you not to expose him, but to heal him. Dante pulled away from the church. You can't heal someone like me, Lena. That's what I told him. They drove in silence through the dark Chicago streets. The city looked different at this hour. Emptier, quieter, almost peaceful. Like the violence and chaos were just a bad dream. Where are we going? Lena asked finally. Rose Hills Cemetery.
Why?
Dante didn't answer. 20 minutes later, he parked outside the cemetery gates. They were locked, but he knew another way in, a gap in the fence his father had shown him years ago. They walked through rows of headstones, their breath misting in the cold air. Dante led her to the Moretti family plot, a massive marble monument that had cost more than most people's houses. He stopped in front of a simple headstone set slightly apart from the others. Giovanni Moretti, beloved father. 1958 to 2020, Dante knelt in the wet grass, his side screaming in protest. I haven't been here since the funeral. Lena stood behind him, quiet. 5 years, Dante continued. 5 years I've been running his empire, making decisions, building something I thought would make him proud. And all I did was prove him right, that this life is a curse. He pulled out the gun and set it on the grass beside him. The night before he died, he called me to his hospital room. Could barely talk, cancer had eaten through his throat. But he grabbed my hand and whispered, walk away, Dante. Sell it all. Be better than me. But you didn't. I was angry. Thought he was weak for giving up, for letting the disease beat him. Dante laughed bitterly. Turns out I was the weak one. Too weak to leave, too weak to change, too weak to be anything other than what everyone expected. Lena knelt beside him. What would he say if he could see you now? Probably that I'm an idiot for trusting Ricci. For not seeing the betrayal coming. Dante touched the cold marble. He never liked my cousin. Said Ricci had hungry eyes. Guess he knew better than I did. It's not too late, you know. Too late for what? To walk away. Like your father wanted. Lena looked at him in the dim light. You could disappear. Change your name, start over somewhere far from here. Let Ricci think you're dead. And what about your mother? Ricci's men are watching her. Then we get her out first. Tonight. Before Ricci knows we're moving.
Dante shook his head.
He'll find us. He has contacts everywhere, police, FBI, other families. There's nowhere far enough. So, what's your plan? Walk into his trap and die. Maybe he picked up the gun. Or maybe I take him with me. That's not a plan. That's suicide. You got a better idea? Lena was quiet for a long moment. Then, what if we gave him what he wants? He wants me dead. No. Her eyes lit up with sudden realization. He wants you gone. Out of the picture. If you're dead, he takes over everything. Your territory, your connections, your reputation. But what if there was nothing left to take over? Dante looked at her. What are you saying? I'm saying we burn it all down. She stood up, pacing. Every account, every contact, every piece of leverage you have, we expose it all. Give it to the FBI, the newspapers, everyone. Make it so toxic that nobody would want to touch it. That would destroy everything. Exactly. If there's no empire left, what's the point of killing you? You'd just be another nobody. Not worth the risk. Dante stared at her. You're talking about giving up everything my father built. Everything I've worked for. Your father told you to walk away. This is how you walk away, by making sure there's nothing left to walk away from. It was insane. Reckless. Everything in Dante's blood screamed against it. You didn't betray the family business. You didn't burn down your own empire. But then again, the empire was already ashes. There's a problem, he said. Even if we do this, Ricci will still come after us. After you. He made it personal when he threatened your mother. Then we make him an offer he can't refuse. Lena's voice was steady now, certain. We give him the one thing he wants more than revenge. What's that? Freedom. Immunity. A clean slate. She looked at Dante. We trade everything, all your files, all your secrets, everyone you ever worked with to the FBI. In exchange, they take down Ricci and everyone connected to him. We give them the whole network. You're talking about becoming a rat. I'm talking about staying alive. She grabbed his shoulders. And more than that, I'm talking about doing the right thing for once. How many people have died because of this world? How many more Danny Cruzas are out there? Dante looked at his father's grave, then back at Lena. If I do this, he said slowly, I can never come back. Everyone I ever knew will want me dead. I'll spend the rest of my life looking over my shoulder. Is that worse than dying in a week? He thought about Marco's daughter, Tommy's fiancée, all the families his war had destroyed. No, he said finally. It's not worse. Lena helped him to his feet. So we do this. Dante took one last look at his father's name carved in marble. Beloved father. We do this, he said. But first, we get your mother somewhere safe. They walked back through the cemetery as dawn began to break over Chicago. Behind them, the Moretti family monument stood silent, a testament to a legacy that was about to burn. Dante's phone buzzed. A text from an unknown number. Tick-tock, cousin. Running out of time. He showed it to Lena. How long do we have? She asked. Not long enough. They got into the Lincoln and drove toward a new sunrise, one that would either bring redemption or death. Dante wasn't sure which one he preferred. Lena's mother lived in a small house in Pilsen, 20 minutes south of the mansion. They parked 2 blocks away, watching for any sign of Ricci's men. Dante spotted them immediately. A black SUV with tinted windows across the street, engine running. Amateur hour. There's at least 2 of them, he said. Maybe more inside. We can't just leave her there. We won't. Dante checked his gun. 3 bullets. But we need a distraction. Lena pulled out her phone. I have an idea. 5 minutes later, 3 police cars came screaming down the street, lights flashing. Someone had called in a domestic disturbance at the house next door. Loud voices, possible weapons. The black SUV pulled away quickly, not wanting to attract attention. Go, Dante said. You've got maybe 10 minutes before they realize it's fake. Lena ran to her mother's house while Dante kept watch. He saw her knock, saw the door open, saw a small woman with gray hair pull Lena into a tight embrace. They were talking urgently, Lena gesturing, her mother shaking her head, refusing. Come on, Dante thought. We don't have time for this. Finally, the older woman grabbed a coat and followed Lena out. They were halfway to the Lincoln when Dante's instincts screamed a warning. The black SUV was back, turning onto the street at high speed. Run, Dante shouted. Lena's mother looked confused, but Lena grabbed her arm and pulled her forward. They were 10 feet from the car when the SUV screeched to a stop and 2 men jumped out. Dante recognized one of them, Vincent Calabrese, one of Ricci's enforcers. The other was younger, hungry looking. Going somewhere, Moretti? Vincent had his gun drawn. Dante stepped between them and Lena, his own weapon raised. Let them go, Vinny. This is between me and Ricci. Boss says otherwise. Says the girl's insurance. Vincent aimed at Lena. You come quiet, she lives. You run, everybody dies. He's lying, the younger guy said, eager. Ricci said no witnesses. Vincent shot him an annoyed look. Shut up, Tony. What? I'm just saying what he. The gunshot came from behind them. Everyone spun around. A third man stood near the SUV, someone Dante hadn't seen get out. He was holding a rifle, and he was aiming at the house. Ricci's orders, the man said. Burn it all. He fired again, and Lena's mother's front window exploded. No. Lena screamed. Everything happened at once. Vincent turned toward the rifleman, shouting something. Tony raised his gun toward Dante. Lena's mother stood frozen in shock. Dante made a choice. He fired first at Tony, catching him in the shoulder. The young man went down, cursing. Vincent spun back toward Dante, but Lena grabbed a trash can lid and threw it at his head. It hit with a satisfying clang, and Vincent stumbled. The rifleman was reloading. Dante had one bullet left. He aimed carefully and fired. The shot went wide, hitting the SUV's tire instead. The vehicle lurched, and the rifleman lost his balance. Car. Now. Dante shoved Lena and her mother toward the Lincoln. They piled in as Vincent recovered and started shooting. Bullets sparked off the trunk as Dante floored it, tires screaming. Everyone okay? He shouted. Define okay. Lena gasped from the back seat, holding her mother. Dante checked the rear-view mirror. The SUV was trying to follow, but the flat tire slowed them down. They had maybe a 2-minute head start. Where are we going? Lena's mother asked, her voice shaking. Somewhere safe, Dante said, though he had no idea where that was anymore. They drove for 20 minutes, taking random turns, doubling back, making sure they weren't followed. Finally, Dante pulled into the parking lot of an old motel on the outskirts of the city, the kind of place that didn't ask questions if you paid cash. Inside the room, Lena's mother sat on the bed, her hands trembling. Lena, what is happening? Who are these men? Who is he? Mama, I can explain. Is this about Danny? The older woman's eyes filled with tears. Is this about your brother? Lena looked at Dante, then back at her mother. Yes. Who are you? Mrs. Caruso stood up, facing Dante. Did you kill my son? The question hung in the air like smoke. No, Dante said quietly. But my ward did. I'm responsible. Mrs. Caruso slapped him. The sound cracked through the room. Dante didn't move, didn't defend himself. He just stood there and took it. My Danny, she whispered. My baby boy. 23 years old. He was going to be a teacher. I know. You know? Her voice rose. You know? You didn't know him. You didn't see him help his sisters with homework. You didn't hear him laugh. You didn't. She broke down, sobbing. Lena caught her mother as she collapsed. Mama, please. Sit down. Why is he here, Lena? Why are you with this man? Because he saved me today. Because he's trying to make things right. Right? Mrs. Caruso looked at her daughter with red, angry eyes. How does he make Danny right? How does he bring back 3 years? Dante spoke, his voice rough. He can't. I can't. Nothing I do will ever make up for your son's death. But I can make sure it doesn't happen to anyone else. How? By destroying everything I built. By making sure people like me can't hurt people like Danny anymore. Mrs. Caruso studied him for a long moment. You expect me to believe you? To forgive you? No, ma'am. I don't. She turned to Lena. And you? You forgive him? Lena's voice was barely a whisper. I don't know, Mama. I really don't know. Before anyone could say more, Dante's phone rang. Not the burner, his old phone, the one he thought was dead. He answered, and Ricci's voice purred through the speaker. Did you like my warning, cousin? That was just the opening act. He paused. I'm at the old docks. Pier 17. You know, the one where Papa used to take us fishing when we were kids. What do you want, Richie? I want you to come home. You alone. We settle this like family. You don't show up in 1 hour, I start killing everyone you ever cared about. Starting with that pretty reporter. She's with me. I know. That's why I grabbed her editor instead. Mark Breslin, right? He's here now, wondering why he took a job in journalism instead of something safe like accounting. Lena grabbed the phone. You touch him, I swear. 1 hour, Lena. Bring Dante, or Breslin dies. Then your mother. Then you, Richie laughed. See you soon, family. The line went dead. Lena looked at Dante, her face pale. He has Mark. This is my fault. I got him involved. No, Dante said. This is on me. All of it. So, what do we do? Dante checked his gun. Empty. He looked at these two women, one who hated him, one who didn't know what she felt, and made his decision.
We end this, he said.
Tonight. They found a 24-hour diner 3 blocks from the motel. Dante needed a plan, and he couldn't think on an empty stomach. Mrs. Caruso refused to speak to him. She sat in the corner booth, staring out the window while Lena ordered coffee for everyone. Dante spread a napkin on the table and drew a rough map of Pier 17. It's an old smuggling route. My father used it in the 90s before the Port Authority cracked down. There are 3 ways in: the main entrance, a side door near the water, and a ventilation shaft that leads to the office. You're not seriously planning to walk into his trap? Lena said. You have a better idea?
Yes.
We call the FBI. Give them everything right now. Let them handle Richie. They won't get there in time. Your editor dies, and Richie disappears into the wind. Dante took a sip of coffee. It was terrible, but it was hot. This ends tonight. One way or another. You'll die. Probably. Lena grabbed his arm. Then what was the point of any of this? The cemetery, your father's grave, talking about redemption. Was that all just words? No, Dante met her eyes. It was me finally understanding what I need to do. I can't undo the past, Lena. Can't bring back Danny or Marco or Tommy. But I can make sure Richie doesn't hurt anyone else. By dying. By taking him with me. Mrs. Caruso spoke for the first time since the motel. You want to die? Dante looked at her.
Mom.
You want to die, she repeated, turning from the window. You think dying makes you noble. Makes you redeemed. It doesn't. It just makes you a coward. Mama, Lena started. No, the older woman stood up and walked to their table. You want redemption, Mr. Moretti? Real redemption? Then live. Live and face what you've done. Live and spend every day trying to fix the damage. Dying is easy. Living with your guilt? That takes courage. Dante felt something crack inside his chest. You should want me dead. I do, her voice was steady. Part of me wants to kill you myself for what happened to Danny. But my son didn't die so you could throw your life away on revenge. He died because people like you and Richie chose violence over humanity. I can't change what I am. Then don't change what you are. Change what you do, she sat down across from him. You said you want to make sure this doesn't happen to anyone else. Fine. Do that. But do it alive, not as a martyr. The diner fell silent except for the hiss of the coffee maker. Lena was staring at her mother like she'd never seen her before. Mama, what are you saying? I'm saying there's a third option. Mrs. Caruso looked at Dante. You give the FBI everything, names, accounts, operations. You testify against everyone. And you face the consequences like a man, not a ghost. They'll put me away for life. Maybe. Or maybe they offer you a deal for cooperation, she leaned forward. Either way, you live. You face justice. And maybe, just maybe, you stop more Danny Carusos from dying. Dante looked at Lena. Is this what you want? I want Mark safe. I want my mother safe. I want, she paused. I want to believe people can change. Even people like me? I don't know yet, her honesty cut deeper than any lie could have. But I know dying in some warehouse shootout isn't the answer. Dante pulled out his phone, the burner. He stared at it for a long moment, then dialed a number he'd memorized years ago, but never thought he'd use. FBI, Agent Morrison speaking. My name is Dante Moretti. I want to make a deal. 2 hours later, they sat in a fishing shack a quarter-mile from Pier 17. Agent Morrison had brought 2 other agents and a prosecutor. They'd been questioning Dante for the past hour, recording everything. Let me get this straight, Morrison said, a hard-faced woman in her 40s. You're offering complete cooperation, testimony, documents, access to all accounts, in exchange for what exactly? Protection for Lena Caruso and her mother. Immunity for Lena's involvement. And you take down Ricci tonight before he kills Mark Breslin. And what do you get? I turn myself in after Ricci's arrested. No running, no fighting. I face whatever charges you bring. Morrison exchanged looks with the prosecutor. You understand you're looking at 20 to 30 years minimum? Conspiracy, racketeering, accessory to murder. The list goes on. I understand. Why now? Why not run? You had chances. Dante glanced at Lena. Because someone reminded me what my father wanted. And because I'm tired of running from what I am. The prosecutor, a young man who looked barely 30, leaned forward. Mr. Moretti, if you're serious about this, we need everything. Every name, every transaction, every dirty cop and politician.
Can you do that?
Yes. Including your cousin? Especially my cousin. Morrison stood up. Then here's how this works. You wear a wire. You go to Pier 17 and get Ricci talking. We record everything, then we move in and make the arrest. You try anything stupid, the deal's off. What about Mark Breslin? We'll have snipers positioned. The moment we have Ricci on tape, we extract the hostage. Lena grabbed Dante's arm. This is insane. He'll search you for a wire.
Probably, Morrison said.
Which is why we're not using a traditional wire. We're using this, she held up what looked like a regular button. Microtransmitter. We sew it into your jacket. Unless he strips you naked, he won't find it.
Dante took the button.
It was smaller than a dime. 1 hour, Morrison said. We need to prep the team. You use that time to write down every location, every name, every detail you can remember. My partner will take your statement. She walked out, leaving Dante with Lena and her mother. You don't have to do this, Lena said quietly. Yes, I do. He's your family. Your blood. Ricci stopped being family the moment he killed my men. Dante looked at his hands. You were right back at the church. I'm not a monster, but I've done monstrous things. This is how I start making it right. Mrs. Caruso touched his shoulder, just briefly, but it was more grace than he deserved. My son believed in second chances, even for people who didn't deserve them. I don't deserve this. No, she agreed. But you're getting it anyway. Don't waste it. An agent came in with a laptop. Mr. Moretti? We're ready for your statement. Dante stood up, but Lena stopped him. When this is over, when Ricci's arrested and you're in custody, what happens to us? What do you mean? I mean, do I write the story? Do I expose everything? Or do I? She trailed off. You write the truth, Dante said. Not the legend. Not the myth. Just what happened. A man who built an empire on blood and finally realized the cost was too high. That's not much of a redemption story. It's the only one I've got. He followed the agent to begin his confession, leaving Lena alone with her mother and the weight of choices that would define them all. Outside, dawn was breaking over Chicago. And somewhere across the city, Ricci was waiting. Pier 17 smelled like rust and dead fish. Dante walked alone across the cracked concrete, the microtransmitter button sewn into his jacket collar. FBI snipers were positioned on 3 rooftops. Morrison had shown him the tactical map. Lena was in a surveillance van 2 blocks away, listening to everything. The warehouse door stood open, yellow light spilling out into the pre-dawn darkness. Cousin, Ricci's voice echoed from inside. I was starting to think you wouldn't show. Dante stepped through the entrance. The warehouse was mostly empty except for old shipping containers and broken pallets. In the center, tied to a chair, was Mark Breslin. The editor's face was bruised, his lips split, but he was alive. Ricci stood beside him, gun in hand, smiling like this was a family reunion. You look like hell, Dante. You burned down my house and shot me. What did you expect? Fair point. Ricci walked closer, keeping the gun trained on Mark. You come alone. You asked me to. Forgive me if I don't take your word for it. Ricci gestured to two men who emerged from behind the containers. Search him. Dante raised his arms while they patted him down roughly. They found nothing, no gun, no wire, no phone. One of them nodded to Ricci. Satisfied? Dante asked. Getting there, Ricci circled him slowly. You know what hurts the most, cousin? Not that you're hard to kill. Not even that you survived. It's that you made me do this. Force my hand. I forced you? You betrayed me. I freed us. Ricci's voice rose. Your father's shadow, your rules, your paranoia. It was suffocating. The families wanted to expand, take new territory, but you kept saying no. Too risky, Ricci. Not worth the heat, Ricci, you were weak. I was careful. You were scared. Ricci pressed the gun against Mark's temple. The editor whimpered. This is what happens when you play it safe, Dante. Someone hungrier comes along and takes what should have been yours. Dante kept his voice level, knowing Morrison was recording every word. So you made a deal. With the Castellanos? The FBI. With everyone, Ricci grinned. The Castellanos wanted you gone. The FBI wanted dirt on the family. I gave them both what they wanted and kept the empire for myself. Beautiful, really. And my men? Marco, Tommy, they were just collateral damage. They were loyal to you, not to the future. Had to clean house, Ricci shrugged. Business, cousin. Nothing personal. You killed 12 people. That's not business, that's murder. Oh, please. Don't act righteous now. How many people died building your empire? How many Danny Carusos bled out on Chicago streets because the great Dante Moretti wanted respect? The name hit Dante like a punch. How do you know about Danny Caruso? Ricci's smile widened. You think I don't know about your reporter girlfriend? I know everything, Dante. I know she lost her brother 3 years ago. No, she blames you for it. He paused. Want to know the funny part? What? It was my order that killed him. The warehouse went silent. What did you say? Dante's voice was barely a whisper. Danny Caruso. Night of August 15th, 3 years ago. The Castellano shootout. Ricci laughed. That wasn't random chaos, cousin. That was a message. I used her brother as bait. Told the Castellanos one of our informants would be at that grocery store. Kid was in the wrong place at the wrong time. Dante felt something break inside him. You set him up. I set up a lot of people. Can't remember them all. Ricci pressed the gun harder against Mark's head. But I remember that one because it was so clean. No witnesses, no heat, and it pushed the Castellanos exactly where I wanted them. Beautiful. In the surveillance van, Lena was crying, Morrison's hand on her shoulder. We've got enough, the agent whispered. More than enough. Back in the warehouse, Dante took a step forward. You're a monster. I'm a businessman. There's a difference. Ricci cocked the gun. Now, here's what happens next. I kill the reporter's editor, then I kill you, and then I find your pretty little Lena, and... The gunshot cut him off. But it didn't come from Ricci. It came from behind Dante. Lena stood in the doorway, Morrison's service weapon in her shaking hands. The bullet had hit Ricci in the shoulder, spinning him away from Mark. You killed my brother, she screamed. You used him like he was nothing. Ricci stumbled, dropping his gun. His men raised their weapons, but red laser dots appeared on their chests, FBI snipers taking position. FBI, drop your weapons. Morrison's voice boomed through a megaphone. Ricci's men froze, then slowly lowered their guns. Dante rushed to Mark, cutting his bonds with a knife from the floor. You okay? Mark nodded weakly. Been better. Lena still had the gun pointed at Ricci, who was bleeding but grinning even as agents flooded into the warehouse. You won't pull that trigger, Ricci taunted. You're not like us. You're soft. You're right, Lena said, her voice steady now. I'm not like you. I don't kill people for business.
But you took my brother from me.
Used him like he was garbage.
So do it.
Shoot me. Morrison moved closer. Lena, put the gun down. We've got him. It's over. He deserves to die. Yes, Morrison agreed. But you don't deserve to become a killer. Your brother wouldn't want that. Lena's hands trembled. Tears streamed down her face. For a long moment, no one moved. Then she lowered the gun. You're right, she whispered. Danny wouldn't want this. She handed the weapon to Morrison and walked to Dante, collapsing against him. He held her while she sobbed, while agents cuffed Ricci and his men, while paramedics rushed in to treat Mark. Ricci was laughing as they dragged him away. You think this changes anything? The game doesn't end, Dante. Someone else will take my place, take yours, and the whole thing starts over. Dante looked at his cousin, his blood, his family, his betrayer. Not this time, he said quietly. Morrison approached with handcuffs. Mr. Moretti, I need you to come with us now. Dante nodded. He'd known this was coming. He looked at Lena one last time. Write the truth. All of it. I will.
And Lena? I'm sorry.
For Danny, for everything. I know it doesn't change anything, but it changes something, she said softly. Not enough, but something. Morrison cuffed him gently. Let's go. As they led Dante out of the warehouse, the sun was rising over Lake Michigan, painting the sky in shades of red and gold. Behind him, an empire lay in ruins. Ahead of him, justice waited. And for the first time in 5 years, Dante Moretti felt something he'd forgotten existed. Peace. The FBI field office was cold and fluorescent bright. Dante sat in an interrogation room, still handcuffed, watching through the one-way glass as agents processed Ricci in the next room. His cousin was shouting, demanding a lawyer, threatening lawsuits. The man who'd orchestrated 12 murders was worried about his legal rights. Morrison entered with a thick folder and 2 cups of coffee. She set one in front of Dante. Ricci's already trying to deal, she said, sitting down. Offering up names, locations, the whole network. Thinks he can trade his way to a lighter sentence. Will it work? Not after what we recorded tonight. He confessed to murder, conspiracy, racketeering. The list goes on. She opened the folder. But we still need your cooperation, Mr. Moretti. Everything you promised. I'll give you everything. Morrison studied him. Why? You could have run. Could have disappeared. Instead, you walked into that warehouse knowing you'd end up here. I need to understand why. Dante wrapped his hands around the coffee cup, feeling the warmth. You know about Danny Caruso? The reporter's brother. Ricci used him as bait. 3 years ago, I didn't know his name. Didn't know he had sisters who loved him. A mother who cried at his funeral. A future he'd never get to live. Dante looked up at her. He was just another casualty. Collateral damage in a war I started. You didn't kill him. I created the world where he could be killed. That's the same thing. Morrison was quiet for a moment. The prosecutor wants to offer you a deal. 15 years, eligible for parole in 10, in exchange for complete testimony against everyone in the organization. Every name, every crime, every connection. That's generous. It's practical. You're worth more to us as a witness than as another inmate. She leaned forward. But there are conditions. You testify in at least 40 cases. You relocate after prison with a new identity. And you never return to Chicago. Never return home. Never see his father's grave again. Never walk the streets where he'd grown up. I accept. Just like that. Just like that, Dante took a sip of coffee. It was better than the diners. My father told me to walk away. Took me 5 years, but I'm finally listening. Morrison pulled out a legal document. Sign here. And here. Initial here. Dante read through it carefully. 15 years of his life, condensed into 5 pages of legal jargon. He picked up the pen. What about Lena? He asked. Ms. Caruso's been cleared of any wrongdoing. She acted in self-defense, And her investigation was legitimate journalism, Morrison paused. She's outside, actually. Wants to see you before we process your transfer. Tell her. Dante stopped. What could he tell her? Thank you? I'm sorry? Words felt inadequate. Tell her yourself. You've got 5 minutes. Morrison left, and a moment later, Lena entered. She looked exhausted, her eyes red from crying, but she was steady on her feet. They sat across from each other, the table between them like a border between two countries. Mark's going to be okay, she said. Broken ribs, concussion, but he'll recover. Good. He wants to interview you. For the story. You're still writing it. Of course, she managed a small smile. A deal's a deal. You give me the truth, I write it. Dante slid the folder across the table. Everything's in here. Bank accounts, property holdings, shell companies. Enough to fund a dozen investigations. Lena opened the folder and stared. This is. Dante, this is millions of dollars. It's blood money. Give it to the families. Marco's daughter, Tommy's fiancée, Danny's mother. All the people my empire hurt. Split it among them. The FBI will want this. The FBI's getting my testimony. This is separate. This is mine to give, he met her eyes. It won't bring anyone back, but maybe it helps somehow. Lena's hands trembled as she held the folder. You know I can't forgive you, right? Not fully. Not for Danny. I know. But I understand now. What you were, what you became, why you did what you did, she wiped her eyes. You're not a monster, Dante. You're just a man who made terrible choices and is finally trying to make one good 1 inch. Is that what you'll write? I'll write the truth. That Dante Moretti built an empire on blood and fear. That he hurt people, destroyed lives, and earned every year of his sentence. She paused. And that in the end, he chose redemption over revenge. That he walked into a police station and turned himself in when he could have run. That's not much of a redemption story. It's the only one you've got, she stood up. For what it's worth, I think your father would be proud. Not of what you built, but of what you're tearing down. Morrison knocked on the door. Time's up. Lena walked to the door, then turned back. One more thing. My mother asked me to give you this. She pulled out a small photograph and set it on the table. It showed a young man in a graduation cap and gown, smiling at the camera. Danny Caruso. She said you should remember his face. Remember what was lost. Lena's voice was steady. Not as punishment, but as a reminder of why you're doing this. Dante picked up the photograph with shaking hands. Danny looked so young, so full of hope, like he had his whole life ahead of him. I'll remember, Dante whispered. Lena nodded and walked out. Morrison returned with 2 federal marshals. Ready, Mr. Moretti? Dante tucked the photograph into his pocket, right next to his heart.
Yeah.
I'm ready. They led him through the building toward a transport vehicle. Through the windows, he could see the sun fully risen now, Chicago waking up to a new day. As they passed the main lobby, Dante saw Lena standing with her mother and Mark, all 3 watching him go. Mrs. Caruso placed her hand over her heart, not quite forgiveness, but acknowledgement, recognition that he was trying. It was more than he deserved. The marshals loaded him into the vehicle. As they drove away from the FBI building, Dante looked back one last time at the city he'd ruled like a king. Chicago kept moving, indifferent to his fall. The empire was gone, the throne empty, the legend ended. But Dante Moretti was still alive. And for the first time in 5 years, that felt like a second chance instead of a curse. 1 year later, the coastal town of Brookhaven didn't appear on most maps. Population, 3,000. 1 main street, 2 churches, a library, and a general store that doubled as the post office. The kind of place where everyone knew everyone, and strangers were noticed immediately. Lena parked her rental car on Main Street and stepped out into the salt-scented air. It had taken her 3 months to find him, following leads, talking to federal contacts, piecing together rumors of a man who'd relocated under witness protection. She wasn't supposed to know where he was. The terms of his deal explicitly prohibited contact with anyone from his past. But Lena had never been good at following rules. The bakery sat at the end of the street, facing the ocean. A hand-painted sign read, "Second Sunrise Bakery, fresh bread daily." Through the window, she could see customers inside, the warm glow of morning light reflecting off display cases. Lena's heart hammered as she pushed open the door. A bell chimed. Behind the counter stood Dante Moretti. He looked different. Older, somehow, though only a year had passed. His hair was longer, starting to gray at the temples. He wore a simple white apron over jeans and a work shirt, flour dusting his hands. But the biggest difference was in his eyes. The hard, haunted look had been replaced by something quieter. Not quite peace, but close to it. He was helping a customer, an elderly woman debating between sourdough and wheat. He smiled as he bagged her choice, his hands gentle and practiced. When the woman left, Dante finally looked up and saw Lena. For a moment, neither of them moved. "We're closed for witness protection violations," he said finally, a ghost of a smile on his lips. "I'll take my chances." Lena approached the counter. "Nice place." "It's honest work." He wiped his hands on his apron. "You shouldn't be here, Lena." "I know. But I needed to see you." She pulled a folded newspaper from her bag and set it on the counter. "I brought you something." The Chicago Tribune, dated 1 week ago. The headline read, "The Mafia Boss Who Chose Redemption." 1 year later. Dante stared at it without touching it. "You wrote it." "I told you I would." "The truth." "All of it." She slid it closer. "It's been nominated for a Pulitzer. Mark thinks I'll win." "Congratulations." "Read it, Lena. Please." Dante picked up the paper with careful hands, like it might bite him. He scanned the article, his expression unreadable. Lena had spent 6 months writing it, documenting his rise and fall, the violence he'd perpetrated, the lives destroyed. But also his testimony that had taken down 37 criminals, his cooperation that had dismantled 3 crime families, his choice to face justice instead of run. "You made me sound almost heroic," he said quietly. "I made you sound human." "There's a difference." Lena leaned against the counter. "The families you helped. Marco's daughter finished her cancer treatment last month. Tommy's fiancé used her portion to start a foundation for victims of gang violence. And my mother. How is she?" "She opened a community center in Danny's name. Teaches kids job skills, helps them stay out of gangs." Lena's voice caught. "She used your money to save kids like Danny. She asked me to thank you." Dante set down the paper. "I don't deserve thanks." "No, you don't. But you're getting it anyway." She looked around the bakery. "This is really what you're doing?" "Baking bread. The local orphanage needed a supplier. I needed something to do with my hands that didn't involve violence." He shrugged. "Turns out I'm decent at it." "You're decent at a lot of things. You just forgot for a while." A timer dinged in the back. Dante excused himself and returned moments later with a tray of fresh loaves, the smell of warm bread filling the small shop. "You look good," Lena said. "Healthy. Almost. Happy." "I'm not happy. But I'm not drowning anymore either." He started arranging the loaves in the display case. "Every morning, I wake up and I bake bread. I deliver it to the orphanage, the church, the senior center. And every night, I look at Danny's picture, and I remember why I'm here." "You still carry it." "Every day." He touched his shirt pocket. "Reminds me what I cost the world. What I can never get back." Lena was quiet for a moment. "Do you regret it? Turning yourself in?"
No.
"Prison was." He paused, searching for words. "It was necessary. It gave me time to think, to understand what I'd become. And now I'm out, living under a new name in a town where nobody knows who I was. It's strange. Is it enough? This life." Dante looked out the window at the ocean, waves rolling endlessly against the shore. "I don't know. But it's honest. And that's more than I had before." Lena reached into her bag and pulled out a cleaning cloth, faded and worn, but carefully folded. The same cloth she'd used to wipe his blood that first night in the burning mansion. "I've carried this for a year," she said. Couldn't throw it away. Couldn't explain why. Dante took it, and his hands trembled slightly. The cloth was spotless now, laundered until no trace of blood remained. "Why bring it now?" he asked. "Because I needed to see if you were real. If the man who chose redemption over revenge actually existed, or if I'd imagined him." She met his eyes. "I needed to know if broken things really can be fixed." "And? What's your conclusion?" Lena smiled, sad but genuine. "I think some stains wash out, given enough time and enough care." They stood there in the quiet bakery, two people bound by tragedy and blood and something neither could name. Not forgiveness, that was too big, too complicated. But acknowledgement, recognition, a tentative belief in second chances. "I should go," Lena said finally. "If the feds find out I'm here." "I know." She walked to the door, then turned back one last time. "For what it's worth, Dante, your father would be proud. And Danny. I think he'd understand what you're trying to do." "I hope so. Goodbye, Dante Moretti. Or whatever your name is now." "Goodbye, Lena Caruso." She walked out into the morning sun, leaving the newspaper and the cloth on the counter. Dante stood alone in his bakery, holding the spotless fabric that had once been stained with his blood. Through the window, he watched Lena drive away, disappearing around the corner. He carefully folded the cloth and placed it beside the register, next to Danny's photograph. Then he turned back to his ovens, to the bread that needed baking, to the honest work that filled his days. Outside, the waves continued their endless rhythm against the shore. The sun climbed higher in the sky. And in a small town that didn't appear on most maps, a man who'd been a king learned what it meant to simply be human. The second sunrise had come. And with it, the faint, fragile possibility of redemption. End of story. Total word count, 12,168 words.